Mariah, how are you, lovely?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you.
That's good. What's been happening today? What have you been up to?
Today was actually a pretty chill day, which was really nice. So had a really amazing staff party last night, actually. Got to go mountain biking.
Christmas party,
Yeah, got to go
Nice.
mountain biking, some solid downhill biking. So I'm now officially a mountain biker. And then had
One session and you're pro.
I'm in, like I'm sold on it for sure. But yeah, so we had that last night and then had a little sleep in today. Had coffee with a girlfriend, and then had a beautiful lunch with you this afternoon.
Yeah, we had like a falafel Lebanese breakfast type thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was amazing. And now we're in the park and we're recording this podcast. It's a beautiful day in Adelaide.
Incredible day, yeah.
And I'm excited to dive in more. We've talked about it a little bit. Where do we meet?
Where did we meet? Through Carly. So just being connected that direction. Yeah.
Yes, I think Instagram.
Yep.
And then we collaborated on an Align event in Adelaide, which was about 2 months ago, which was incredible.
I can't believe that was 2 months ago now. Wow.
Yeah. Time is flying. It's like 20. Okay. When you're seeing this or hearing this is probably January.
Yeah.
So it's December 14th. Right now? Yep, about that. Yeah. So, yeah, if you are joining us on YouTube, hi, you can enjoy the park.
Welcome to this park.
I'm sure people will walk past me like, what the hell are these people doing? But it's all the fun in it. So, what are you most excited about in life right now?
Good question. Some pretty exciting things happening. As you and I were chatting about, I think the most exciting thing, or just a bunch of kind of pieces of a puzzle coming together. I'm getting to produce and host a TV series called The Holistic Approach on the wellness community in Adelaide. So meditation, yoga, Ayurveda, and traditional Chinese medicine. So planning stages of that currently. We just got a grant, so we just got funding for it, which I was working on that for the last year. So that's come to fruition, which is amazing. So yeah, probably that would be the most exciting thing.
Yeah. Amazing. And that's super exciting because I remember you talking having a discussion about this before the event. I think it was that morning before the event. And you're like, we find out soon. And then I remember the voice message and you're like, I got it.
And Carly was saying, that's not how you manifest, Mariah. You have to believe that it's going to happen.
I do remember that. Good manifestation class that morning.
Yeah.
And so I know a bit about you. We've had lunch together and talked about life, as you do. And I was like, hold it, we need to talk about this on the podcast. So I know a bit, and obviously through Instagram and us chatting and stuff like that. But for myself and the listeners that don't know too much about you, could you give us a wrap-up of your life from start to where you are now and everything you do now?
Whew. All right. In 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No.
You've got about 10, 15, so you're right.
All right, cool. Well, obviously with my accent, I'm originally from Canada. So I grew up in small town Canada, a town of about 5,000 people. 10,000 surrounding little farming community. My parents had a farm, but it was not your traditional farm, I suppose. We had honeybees. So my dad's a beekeeper and my mom is an artist. So we grew up on an organic property with fruit trees and beautiful gardens and lots of honeybees. So
Did you have honey every day, on toast?
I actually did have honey every day, and we had big containers in the basement that apparently when I was really little I'd run downstairs and turn on the tap and drizzle it into my hand and eat it.
That's a great way to attract the ants.
So I had a beautiful childhood. No idea that it was so amazing, obviously, because you don't know those things, right?
Yeah.
And then naughty teenage years, so very naughty teen, and the dynamic between my parents and I changed dramatically through that. I think the big thing in my life that has led me to where I am now, which is a yoga instructor, have gone to film school, and putting all of my passions together, was I had I guess a traumatic experience happen when I was mid-teens, and that kind of changed, I would say, the trajectory of my life, as well as as well, I'm just checking, as well as it really damaged my self-worth. So there was a lot of shame and a lot of guilt around that. And when I hit about 20, I ended up going through quite a serious addiction. So spent about a year and a half really diving into addiction, all the while still eating tons of organic produce and being super healthy in other ways, but also highly, highly addicted to drugs. So just really interesting, that dichotomy, I guess, because I grew up with this beautiful family, and so I still traveled with that. But then also went off the rails a bit and just got a bit wild. So that is something that I definitely carried with me as well, like shame and guilt around that for a long time. And so my adult life has been, I think, navigating that, getting myself sober, and to where I am today, basically.
Amazing. You wrapped up so much in like 3 minutes. I said you had 10 minutes.
Ask me more questions.
No, it's amazing. I can't wait to delve into that even further, because there's so many bits that we could pick apart.
Of course.
In there. So what inspired the move to Australia?
So I wanted to do, I had gotten out of a relationship. I guess I was 26 maybe, had gotten out of a relationship, had traveled, but hadn't traveled as much as I had wanted to. And my life could go in, a couple of different directions. One could be, I was living on Vancouver Island, so one could be staying there, maybe settle down, maybe have some kids, at that stage, or I could go out and see the world. Mm-hmm. So I chose see the world. So a girlfriend and I packed up all of our stuff, decided that we were going to go to Vipassana, so go to a meditation center.
Ooh, what is a Vipassana?
Vipassana,
For those that don't know.
Yeah. So Vipassana is amazing. It's Vipassana is a style of meditation. And a Vipassana center, depending on there's different people who run these different kinds of centers. One in particular is called Vipassana, and it's teachings from a man called Goenka. And they do 10-day silent retreats. And so you can go and do 10 days of silence while having these guided meditations. And you're meditating for like 14 hours a day. And this is really interesting. So I was 26, I guess, going on to 27, I think, and we decided to go for my birthday. So we took off on my birthday, and I was really excited about this because birthdays can become, I don't know, like very much about you, me, that kind of thing. And I was really excited to go and it be quite a different experience, and not getting phone calls from friends and family and, having to do all of that stuff.
So it was your birthday while you were on this retreat?
Yeah, so it was midway through the retreat. And the really interesting thing was I didn't know which day was my birthday. I'm like, is it today? Or is it tomorrow? I'm not sure. I don't care. Yeah. Like, it was really cool. It was really interesting. We stayed there together for that, my girlfriend and I, and then we stayed on and served, because if you do have a Vipassana, you can stay on and serve as well. So then you help host people through another retreat. So you can do like cleaning and cooking and stuff like that. And so we stayed. We were probably there for about 5 weeks at the center, and then we decided to move to New York.
Oh, just casually. Just decide to move to New York. Okay, so where was the Vipassana?
Vipassana this was the second. So I'd done it before, and my girlfriend was a long-term Vipassana meditator, and she had been to multiple prior as well. But this one was in Centralia, Washington. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
In the U.S.
And what happened on, like, you meditate, but Vipassana is like a silent.
So it is. It's a silent retreat. You've got to be silent for 10 days.
So no talking.
No talking. You can talk to, they have teachers there, and if you need to pull somebody aside and set up a meeting, or if you just really need to get some words out, you can pull them aside and have a conversation with them. But no, you're not supposed to talk. You're also sharing a space with somebody, but not with the person that you came with. So they try to remove you from that so you're not having distractions. Yeah. But that means navigating a space with this new person without speaking.
And you can't make gestures.
No,
or
no kind of
eye
contact.
contact?
No. Mm-mm.
So it's like you're ignoring your housemate.
Yeah, but really interesting. You kind of like, you have the same restroom, like the same washroom and things like that, and you kind of like slide in, and it just kind of flows. It works, I guess, like on an energetic level, because I don't know, it just works.
Nice. So 10 days of that, how was that? Like, did you go nuts? Was there a day? Can you write?
You can't write either.
Okay.
You can't write, and you cannot do yoga or anything like that because it's very distracting. You can go for little walks. I'm not supposed to divulge too much as well with Vipassana, because they do ask that you go and have the experience for yourself. So I won't divulge all of the things, obviously, because I think that it's true. It's very important to
have the experience yourself.
Yeah, because it's so different for everybody. Yeah. But the experience was incredible and really deep. And when do you ever give yourself that much time to just sit with yourself? I mean, never, right? Without the distractions. So, yeah, you learn a lot about yourself.
That'd be so cool. Imagine just sitting in, I suppose you can't even do it in your room because there'd be so many distractions and no phones, no...
You hand those all over ahead of time, yeah.
What a challenge for people, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I don't know how it would be now, because when was that? That was 2011.
Okay.
So...
like the Apple takeover.
yeah, absolutely. I do wonder how. I reckon people will go through withdrawals for sure with that kind of thing with a phone.
Yeah. What would happen if I don't check my Instagram or my Facebook messages?
Yeah. Even you and I were totally different, but in 2011 I went as well. We were talking about Burning Man before and festivals, and I got.
That was a cocky, not a person.
Everybody's safe. Don't worry.
There's no child screaming. It's the birds of Australia.
But even Burning Man pre-cell phone takeover as well. I haven't been since... That bird. I haven't been since 2011, so before all of
joining us, yeah.
Since all of the, same thing, Instagram and having a phone in your hand and stuff like that. I've thought about that a lot. Like, how have things changed since, the Apple takeover? Anyways,
and
sidebar.
How different the experience would be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so Vipassana happened. You moved to New York to do yoga.
Decided to work in hospo, so moved to New York and do that, and stayed there was on and off there for about a year before deciding to come out to Australia. That was a really interesting thing. So I packed up my life in New York, had a partner there. We broke up, packed up my life. My girlfriend and I had plans to come out to Australia together, so went back to Vancouver to kind of collect my things, and we were taking off on this wild trip to Australia, and she bailed on me 2 weeks before the trip. So
As you do, conveniently.
I know. And so I had to decide, like, am I going to take this trip solo, or am I not going to take the trip and beg, for my boyfriend to take me back and go back to New York? No. But interestingly enough, she decided to stay in Canada because she actually met a man and she thought he was the one, and he's turned out to be the one. So.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's good. And I came out solo, and I think that life just has a way of working out if you can go in, get into the flow of things, because I have had, because I'm still here, a very different experience, a very different trip altogether. If I was with her, I would have used her as a crutch. We would have spent a lot more time together, maybe not met the people that I had, have met along the way, and probably still wouldn't be here, Yeah.
Because that other person, I guess, can influence your decisions and moods and stuff like that. And I've got a lot of admiration for someone that can move by themselves to a new country. Like, I've done it. It takes a lot of courage and it gets lonely. But what an adventure. Like, you're here and you can share so much from just that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, such a great experience. So challenging at times. Like, I remember being in Melbourne in my hostel and crying. I was just like, what am I doing? And then, pulled it together and have had an incredible experience. Challenging at times, but super grateful for how things have worked out.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I want to ask so many questions, but I know that they're going to come up in the other questions that I ask. So, what is success to you?
What is success to me? Ooh, that's a very good question. Success to me is being able to lean into joy often. So being able to find joy in any circumstance that I'm in. So being able to really lean into it, being able to be vulnerable in joy as well. And part of that is, as we talked about addiction, part of that is like staying sober for me. I know that if I am not sober, I can't just lean into joy. I can't just find that joy. Like I feel cloudy and I feel foggy and I can't find that. So big thing is leaning into joy for sure. So success would be leaning into joy, being a really good daughter and friend, and just being able to support myself financially and pursue my passions.
Yeah. So would that also take, I guess, not leading into those, you say they're a crutch?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you say it?
A
What did I
crutch.
say? A vice? A
Yeah.
crutch.
Yeah.
When I think of crutch, I think of like, the crutch.
No, I've
So,
never thought of that before.
Vice. I say vice. Give into these things. So what sort of traits would it take to not give into those things? Would it be self-awareness, discipline?
It's self-awareness, discipline, like just really, I mean, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of self-work, like a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, going to, like I've, gone to psychologists if I've needed to, just having really beautiful friends around, family around, but yeah, just not leaning on a crutch, knowing that I can create joy and happiness in doing positive things and not needing a substance to create that kind of temporary fix. Not that temporary release of serotonin or oxytocin. I can get that from something more meaningful. I can get that from mountain biking. I can get that from surfing, I can get that from doing yoga. I can get that from going for a walk with a friend, And so for me, I guess how I not stop myself from doing something like going into addiction or using substance, because I don't have so much of an issue with that now. It's not like I'm like, oh, I really want to use cocaine, because that was a vice. That I do not have at all. Like I don't have the want or the need. Like that's gone, which is incredible. But as an example, you and I were talking about just like socializing. So going out to the Christmas party last night, I had 3 drinks, and I'm like, that's going to be my max.
Mm-hmm.
And not going past that max. But I just think about, even with that, like I woke up today, we're talking about a little bit of a sleep in. I woke up today and I was foggier than I normally am. My intuition doesn't feel as clear. Like I don't feel as joyful.
She knew we had a podcast. And both last night we were both out having a drink.
That's why I only had 3. No, there's a lot of reasons why I only had 3.
Everything in moderation, guys.
Everything in moderation. No, but for me, it really is like, it's being really careful. So I feel into the feel. Like if I'm like, I want to have that next drink, and I just think about, how are you going to feel tomorrow, Mariah?
Yeah.
You're going to feel shit. Like, just don't do that. And I actually feel into the feel of what it's going to be like that next day. And that's enough to stop me from doing the thing.
Mm-hmm. So with the addiction to drugs and substances and stuff like that, how did you then take those steps to release that vice that was there? Because I know, like, if you're listening to this and you can relate to this, I'm sure that's a question that you've got for Mariah, who's someone who, I guess you'd say you're on the back end of that. Like
definitely
you're
on the back
very
end.
in a lot of self-control and not letting that overtake your life. If someone's in a situation where you were previously, what were those steps to then?
Yeah, I mean, I can only talk about my process, right? Because I think everybody's process is entirely different and everybody needs something entirely different.
Yeah.
My big thing was just continuing to spend time with the people that brought me up. So just taking myself out of situations. Like I now say no to nights out. If I know that there's going to be a night out and there's going to be substance there, I might just say, what, I'm not going to do that. And I tell them why as well. Yep. Like it's that honesty around it. But when that's current, what the process was, it was 10 years. It was 10 years of me figuring out. It wasn't just like all of a sudden I'm no longer addicted. It was like 10 years of doing lots of yoga, doing meditation, putting myself in better situations, you know, doing the things that I love. The big thing was like just the self-worth, doing the things that I'm passionate about was, you know, like I could go surfing. I'm not good at it, by the way, but I love it. I could go surfing and do something that is then going to make me feel good about myself, or I can go out and have drinks that I'm going to feel crappy the next day, and just like continuously making those choices over a period of 10 years. More than that, over a period of 15 years.
Yeah.
You know?
So were a lot of those decisions influenced by the people around you and wanting to connect and be a part of, you know, the group and all of that?
Which the decisions to use?
Or was it more an escape for you? The feeling?
It was a bunch of things for me. It was a bunch of things. It was definitely like, again, you and I chatted previously about like, you know, going out to dance parties and rave culture and things like that, which I love. Like, I love that. And I loved those connections that you created. So I talk about addiction, and during those periods, it wasn't all bad. There was a lot of joy, and there was a lot of happiness, and there was a lot of fun. And I definitely wouldn't say that it was pressure. Like, it was my choice. I was there by choice. I was doing it by choice. And I was experimental as well. I was a wild child. Like, that was also part of it. Also why I guess I say I talk about these other kind of like adrenaline-y activities, because I enjoy that, but I can get it from a more positive place now. So I wouldn't say that it was any kind of pressure from the outside. It was more it was myself. It was my own experimenting and things like that. But then, you know, it becomes, you know, when it becomes a lifestyle and it's no longer a party.
Yeah.
You know, when it becomes your life, that's when I was like, something needs to change, something needs to shift. So again, I think it's different for everybody. Like, I think go see somebody who's like an addiction counselor, go see a psychologist, do all of these things, but you're going to have to find your own way out of it, because it's so different for everybody. And I'm also incredibly lucky. I feel very blessed. And I always say this, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't come from the upbringing that I came from. So I'm super lucky that I came from really beautiful parents. But if I didn't, and I didn't have that grounding, and I went off track, who knows what would have happened, you know? So I just think we all need different things, and it's so different for everybody.
And I guess it's a part of your unique journey to where you are now. And again, you wouldn't be sitting here with that wisdom on those topics if you didn't have that life experience.
Like, I don't even feel like I have wisdom on it, but
you've got experience to share on it. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have the experiences, and I know what works for me, but I don't know what's going to work for somebody else.
Which is great advice as well. Would you say you're living your purpose?
Yeah, I definitely am. I think there's a lot more to come. I think that we're still in the works of creating something. I'm in the works of creating a very magical life, I think. And I feel now like I am completely in the right place. And I was saying before, all of the kind of the pieces of the puzzle are kind of coming together. Like I went to film school. I have done a bunch of yoga teacher trainings, you know, for the past 10 years. I've also studied business. I've studied healthcare. And even just with this show, even with the holistic approach, it's like I'm getting to put all of those pieces together. And who would have thought that, you know, those all worked together, you know?
Which is so cool.
So I think just it's like, I guess this is a word of advice, I guess, but also trust the process, you know, you'll get there. As long as you keep on going, as long as you keep on putting one foot in front of the other, you will get there, you know, and your journey to success might be really quick, or it might take longer. It might be years, but just keep on going.
So how do we create that magical life you're talking about? How does one take those steps to create their magical life?
I think you really have to sit down and really nut out what are the like core values, as you speak about in Align events. Like, what are your core values? What are the things that are most important to you? And what are the things that bring you joy? And can you incorporate all of those things together, you know? And I think that's how, if it's bringing you joy and it's not a substance, if it's actually bringing you real joy, internal joy that's not, then that's positive, right? Yeah. And when I talk about joy, it's like joy and contentment. It's like this more even keeled kind of thing. It's not like, wow, like these guys.
Yes. Steady rise. Not these.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, like I say, I like the adrenaline-y things, but there's still like it's much more even.
Yeah.
Not so many highs and lows, you know?
Little bumps.
Yeah.
Not these ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I love that because I know a lot of people that I've spoken to and that I see when they reach out to me, it's kind of like, oh, but I can't do what I like and get paid from it and have a lifestyle around that. And I'm like, well, I did that. I had to try so many things and then figure out what I really liked, what I was naturally good at, and then I put them all together and I've created my dream company and lifestyle of everything that I do. Like I travel, I get to collaborate with amazing people like yourself, and meet amazing people, but then also host events to impact other people's lives. And I'm like, I get to sit in a park and record a podcast with you and like share this with everyone. And like, if you're listening, like, again, I say this at the start of every episode, I love you and I appreciate you so much. And it's like, I was able to create that, but it took the process that you're talking about and relatively quick, like 2 years but it took the 23 years before that to figure everything out and the challenges and all that. But I love how you were like, you can create it and bunch things that you love together, and why not come from a place of that? Because if you're doing things that you love that bring you joy, isn't that just a natural state you want to be in?
Yeah. And listen, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a hard slog as well, like it's not like, oh, I'm going to do this joyful thing, it's the easy thing. That's not necessarily true. Like applying for the grant, for example, for the TV series. We had the funding come through. I had to apply for a grant. I did it over the course of a year. I applied twice. And did I like the grant process? No, it was terrible. But I learned a lot from it, and like the outcome is incredible. You know, did I always love doing the self inner work, like listening to what was going on inside of me? No. Did I love turning down a party that I wanted to go to? No. It's not always going to be easy. It can be super challenging. But I think, if you have those core values and you know the direction that you want to go, that that can help keep you in alignment. That can help keep you going in that direction, and that's like where you can figure out how to put all of those pieces together.
Yeah, I love that. Alignment, align, tied it in. Fantastic.
And then I stumbled a bit, it's all good.
I'm like changing positions of how I sit, and I'm like, Mariah's a yoga teacher. I better not do that because I can't get my knees down. Now I'm like, we should do some yoga on the podcast.
Why not?
Let's do something. So
Why
the camera
not?
can see us.
Oh gosh.
Let's go this way.
I don't know if I wore the appropriate attire for yoga.
We were right. No one's behind us. Let's have a quick, because we're halfway through the convo. Let's do come in shot.
Oh,
yeah, awesome. Yep. I've never done this on the podcast before. That's why it came to mind. I'm like, let's do yoga on the podcast.
So are we going to do? Let's sit. Can you put the tops of your feet flat on the ground? Yeah, is that okay? Is that comfortable for you?
Kind of.
Semi.
This is a damn soccer body.
So what kind? Do we want to do like a little inhale, reach up, stretch up overhead?
Yep.
Yes, we do. And then release the left hand down, reach up and over with the right.
This is my left. Yep.
Yeah, reach up and out of the hips. Maybe a little look up towards the sky.
So if you're not watching on YouTube, jump to YouTube. Subscribe.
Yeah, and
like.
then come on back up through center, release the right hand down, reach the left up and over. Again, maybe a little look up towards the sky, maybe rotating the bottom ribs up towards the sky.
I need this for my 4-hour drive.
There you go. And then back up through center and release. We can do a little forward fold as well.
I have experienced Mariah's yoga once at the Align event, and oh my God, the flow was great. Like, I've tried so many different flows, and like, I really, really enjoyed it. So, don't know if we're hosting another Align event, but if we do, keep posted.
Thank you. Yeah, that was super fun to do, that Align event. That was really cool.
It is, and that's what happens when you collaborate with people that you align with as well and share the same passions. You can create something incredible, and everyone that came there loved it so much. So We will need to in Adelaide.
And we got to introduce some people to yoga who'd not done yoga, who had really wanted to. So it was, I guess, an introduction to yoga in a really accessible way for people.
Love that. We're done?
I guess so.
Okay, yeah, sweet. Here I am expecting a full lesson.
I mean, we can keep going.
I only got Mariah on here, so I've got to get a free yoga lesson.
Again, I'm thinking attire might not be appropriate with...
Same. So, you're going to have a drink? Yep.
Listen, I just realized what was going to happen.
That's okay. You can move it out of the way.
Ooh, okay.
Perfectly. It slides.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, one thing I am really, really curious to know is what is the worst thing that has ever happened to you, and how is that the best thing that has ever happened to you?
I guess there's two of the things that were like the trauma, which was a sexual trauma, and addiction that then obviously coincided with one another. One of the reasons it was so, I mean, I don't want to say positive, but one of the reasons I think that it was good as well for me in the long run is the ability to understand other people's pain and other people's trauma and be able to empathize.
Yeah.
And I think that it just made me a much more compassionate person. And like a greater understanding of what goes on in the world.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't sheltered. So I think that's the empathy and the compassion was like both of those things. Big positive out of it.
Yeah, and I think that, again, if you hadn't never went through that experience, you could not then have that perspective on, oh, man, this stuff happens to people and it's not nice and doesn't feel nice. Now you're more aware going into the world.
Yeah, much more so. And I have like these, deep and meaningful conversations with friends around these things and being able to connect with people on, not that you need something like this to happen to connect on a deep level, because you do not, but I love that I can connect with friends, over these things and like really listen and really hear their story and have that kind of, that connection.
Yeah.
And people feel, I guess, as well, if you're willing to share that story, other people then begin to open up. And as we were talking about before, too, just how, like when we were talking about over lunch, like when somebody divulges these things to you and shares their experiences with you, you're like, oh, thank God you're human as well. Like you've stuffed up or these things have happened to you. And then there's that kind of, relaxing into the friendship as well.
Yeah. And I think it's such a deep way to connect with the people that you love. And it's not to say go on Instagram and share everything.
No, God, no.
Like I don't even share everything. I share a lot, but it's if you've got people you trust in your life and that you connect with, it's allowing yourself to be seen, which is very vulnerable. But we had a conversation over lunch. Both of us shared some things, and it's like I feel so much more connected to you, and it's like we know each other on, I guess, a different level that we probably had no idea about our lives.
100%.
And coming from a place of no judgment, no matter what it is. And I think I shared that today. I did an event this morning, spoke at an event, and I was saying that consciousness to me is where everyone and everything exists and no one and nothing is judged. So by us sharing whatever we were sharing, it's like, I wasn't judging you. It was just like, oh, like now I can connect and know who you are. Obviously there's so much to everyone's life if you're going to share everything, write a book. But no, it allows me to see you. And I think connect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something that I've always lived by as well. I think that the truth is much more interesting than fiction, and always is, right? So if we're trying to put on this persona of this perfection, that's boring as well. And it's like what's underneath of that is so much more interesting. People's stories are so much more fascinating.
But we think that the perfect is the interesting bit.
So weird, right? And how boring is that?
Yes. I think it was like when I started going into what I'm doing now, like speaking and podcasting, I was like, it needed to look this way. I needed to be seen as this way. I went and paid a photographer. I'm like, I need these professional photos. And then I'm like, again, I got to the point where I'm like, oh, but you're always going to run out of professional photos. Am I going to keep paying for them? Like, is that actually really me? And then the photos and then this is just an example. The photos I was posting that were just like selfies were like, they were getting more likes and people were commenting on them. And it's like, because it's real, people can relate.
Yeah.
Not saying you can't have model photos, that's fine. But when you're real, people can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that whole perfect box we try to fit in,
Yeah, and nobody's actually in that box, really. We're all trying to fit in, but nobody's actually there.
The only ones are the ones that have been photoshopped. That's a whole nother podcast episode from there. So, if that was the thing you learnt from that, the worst thing, the best thing.
And strength. I didn't say that as well.
Okay.
Just became really, learned how to be really strong through all of that. Learned how to heal myself through all of that. Like, holy crap, that's huge, you know? And if I can get through those things, then I'm a bloody tough woman, I tell you. That sounds so Australian.
That was the Aussie coming out. But that resilience, I think, everyone needs to give themselves a pat on the back.
100%.
You've gotten to where you are and you've gotten through everything you've gotten through. You need to acknowledge that, and I'm happy that you do acknowledge that.
I am. I'm very proud of that. Not up myself, just proud. I was going to do a little head wobble there for a minute.
Healthy proudness over here.
Yeah.
Humbled.
Yeah.
Very humbled. What is the best advice you've ever been given?
So this one, I think this is a super challenging one because I've been given so much wonderful advice over the course of my life, and I can't think of any particular sentence or time that was better than another, but I did have a girlfriend say this to me the other day, well, maybe a month ago or so, and it was this idea, I guess, of being strong as well. Like, we're talking about healing yourself and standing on your own 2 feet and all of this stuff, and being independent. So I was thinking, I'm an independent woman and we prize this so much. But then she was like, you don't have to do everything on your own, and you can have experiences. Oh, that's the wrong way to put it. But you don't have to do everything on your own. And she just said something that was a super simple sentence, and just the way that she put it, I was like, why haven't I been thinking like this all along? Or why, I don't know, somebody had never said this to me sooner, but happiness is doubled when shared.
Whoa.
Just simple. But I was like, that's so true. So do the things with the people. Again, experience the joy with the people. Do the things with the friends and the family and with a collective, and you will get to double that joy and that happiness.
And that takes away the whole competing, because you're just sharing the goodness and the happiness. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's from a Snoop Dogg song. It's like, ain't no fun if the homies can't get none, or can't have none. We all want to be winning. We all want to be happy, and why not share that?
Yeah.
So
and you don't have to do it on your own. You can have a collective, or you can have a team around you
that shares in the wins. Yeah, that supports each other. That there's a lot of love and support, and I think we all want that. We all want support,
and through the hard times too. Through the hard times and through the good times.
So how can we share the happiness? What's one way we can share it?
What's one way we can share it? Being there for friends when they're going through a harder time, so that can bring them up and bring them back to happiness. Sharing in experiences like traveling with somebody versus traveling alone. Traveling alone is a great experience because you do learn how to be strong. But if you think about it, it's so much nicer to travel with somebody and be like, look at that view. You can say it to somebody and you can enjoy that, and you bounce off of one another with that. So
take a photo of me.
Take a photo of me on the view.
You're my personal photographer for this trip.
But yeah, I think again, I come back. I guess I keep on coming back to experiences is what I keep on talking about. Currently, because I think that's such a big thing for me. Right now, I'm just pursuing passions. So pursuing passions with people, that you love.
Yeah.
Or people that have similar passions. That's a great way to share the happiness.
I love that. What is the advice you would give your 16-year-old self?
Oh, I would give me a big squeeze. I've thought of this often. Like, I would give the younger me just a big hug. Um, and just, yeah, to tell her that, you'll see, it'll all work out.
Mm-hmm. It'll all work out.
It'll all work out. You'll see. Like, and just be gentler on yourself. Be kinder. Be gentler, be kinder. It'll all work out.
Were you very tough on yourself?
Ugh.
That explains it. No comment.
The worst. No, so one of the things actually I didn't say earlier that led to other things was, so I had OCD growing up.
Diagnosed or like
Diagnosed.
Self-diagnosed? Okay,
Diagnosed OCD. But we didn't really know what to do with it in a small town. Didn't really know what to do with this thing that I had. And it turns out, amazingly, I no longer have OCD because speaking to a psychologist, it is something that you can, like, it can come through different phases of your life. So now I'm bordering on this, we're talking about this idea of perfectionism, like just in the work and stuff that I do. So I'm trying to even like let go of that, be able to put stuff out there that's not entirely perfect and be comfortable with that. But yeah, that being said, OCD is also an anxiety disorder, and there's a lot of like repetitive thoughts, and some of those thoughts were, really cruel on myself, really cruel. And that's why treat the person that you've got to live with for the rest of your life so poorly?
That's so true. So how do we be more kind
To ourselves?
to ourselves?
I think humor is a big thing.
So taking the piss out of ourselves.
Yeah. like we're gonna stuff up.
Yep.
We're gonna stuff up, and some of those stuff ups are hilarious, and not being afraid to fail as well. Everybody fails. Everybody fails. And it's like entrepreneurs. You look at all of the big entrepreneurs, they often had multiple failed businesses before they became big successes. But if you're too afraid and too hard on yourself and don't want to put anything out there because you are scared it's not going to be good enough, and so you actually don't do anything, you don't take those steps, you're never going to succeed. So fail, and fail often. I think that's a quote that's somewhere from somebody, so I've stolen it.
I think the one that comes back to me is like a soccer analogy, or any sport really. You don't shoot, you don't score.
Yeah.
If you don't actually take the action,
Yeah.
you're never going to know. And you can think about it all you want on like, is it going to work? Is it not? Yes, you still got to do market research and stuff like that.
Yeah, you still have to do the work.
Smart. Yeah. Do the work and be smart about it. But you actually have to try. And this is something in I don't know if you've heard of like life design before. Okay, I'm very open to all these different methodologies and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
It goes with horoscopes and astrology and all of that, and astrology, not horoscopes. And basically, where I fell into with my date of birth, date of time, was that I'm a trial and error person, and I was like, my whole life I was going, I've done all these things. I've had 30 different jobs. I've had 8 businesses, and all of them fail. Not all.
And what are we doing right now?
Yeah, and I'm like doing all these things and all these failures I thought were failures. And again, whether you believe it's true or not, it's in my design of like the unique design of like, you're a trial and error person. You're naturally going to do that to find things. Now, without that whole reading or whatever it was in there, life design, me naturally, I'm like, I just like trying things because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, I've learned a different way to do something, or something I don't want to do.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great thing, right? Because you can learn and be like, this doesn't work for me. This is something I don't want. And if you hadn't put yourself out there, you would not have learned that.
Yeah, and I love that. It's like your message is do the work, but actually take these steps to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you didn't go, okay, now I'm going to come to Australia, or the first yoga maybe class or course, you wouldn't obviously be where you are now because of all of that.
Yoga was a big one for me. So I did that first training in 2009. And then again in 2012. So I did a 200-hour in 2009, another one in 2012. Again, I taught a little bit, didn't teach, taught a little bit, didn't teach. And then this last not this past August, but the August before, I went to Byron and did an 800 hour. And I told myself, I'm like, if I'm not actually going to teach, I'm throwing in the towel. So I was like, I can't just dive into this and then not, not teach after this. But for 10 years, I was afraid to teach because I didn't feel like I was yogi enough. I didn't feel like I was spiritual enough. I didn't feel like I looked like your traditional yoga instructor. I am not bendy. I am the least flexible yogi that you will ever meet.
I'm not bendy. You're speaking like you're Gumby or something. Please tell me you know who Gumby is.
Yes, I know.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
I used to have a little Gumby keychain. Anyways. But I am the least flexible yogi that you'll ever meet. Like, my hips, they're really tight. And it's not that I'm going to be able to stretch them out. It's just anatomically, I just don't have the mobility in my hips.
Yep.
And I felt like to be able to teach, I had to be this perfect example of what a yogi was. And again, perfect. That's not realistic, right? And so I just had to take the steps. And so for the last year, I've been teaching, and that's been my gig. But it's been a long road to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like actionable steps, doing the training, all of those things. But then you've got to dive in. I also had to just be like, I might suck at teaching. Like, who knows, right? Like, I might get into it and I might suck, but at least I've got to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I finally did. And it turns out, it's wonderful and I love it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I think I'm the same. Like, the same with podcasting. It was like, I've never done this before. I've never recorded, edited, and put something together. And I could pre-plan everything, whether it was anything in life, the events that we run, any of that, I could try and think what's going to happen. And you could do all the coursework, but then coursework to then teaching is
so different.
Is another
huge
step.
Huge step.
You could learn it just for you, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have. I suppose you don't have to do those things. But
no.
you were like, I want to teach, and then maybe your first one wasn't the best.
No, and then the old cycles happening, like the patterns, the thought patterns, right? Like, you're not going to be good enough, all of those things.
Yeah.
But then I just pushed through that rubbish.
And how that's how the best yoga teachers you look up to, or you were trained by, the best podcasters I listened to, they actually just started and figured it out along the way.
You just have to start.
Yeah,
you're not going to be perfect at the beginning. Like, you're just not. And that's also it. Talking about failure, you get better at failure, like, as well. You know what I mean? Like, try things, fail them. That's okay. It's less painful along the way.
Yeah.
If you've done it, if you failed a few times, you're like, failure. This is failure. That's okay. And you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off and you get back into it quicker.
Yeah.
Until you find the thing that works.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful lesson as well. That's a whole separate podcast as well. So many things we could deep dive, rabbit holes we could go into. What are you most proud of in your life?
Ooh, what am I most proud of? I think I'm just most proud of. I'm most proud of the human that I am today, with how far that I've come. I'm proud of how caring I am. That's a big thing that I'm proud of, I think, and how much I care for others and the friends around me and the family that I have. I think that's it. Because when I was going through addiction can be a very, very selfish thing as well. Like, you're very wrapped up in your own spiral. Not that you're trying to be, but it turns into that. Yeah. And at times I was a crappy daughter and a really crappy friend. And I'm so happy that I've gone through all of that and learned all of those lessons, and that I can be a wonderful friend and daughter now. Mm-hmm.
It's awesome to have that realization too.
Yeah.
And internalize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I'm proud of. I'm very proud of that.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
Good feels. What is consciousness to you?
What is consciousness to me? I think consciousness is being very very connected. So being very connected to yourself, to the world around you, to the people around you, to nature, the divine, if you want to speak about that, to God. It's being like we're all connected to one another, right? Like we're not separate. There is no separation between us and nature, like us and the ground and the sky and everything, and you and I. Like we are all connected. And so for me, consciousness is like having this conscious connection with the surrounds around you, and then being able to be really clear, also sober, and being able to tune into that. So tuning into intuition and gut and other people's energies and the energy around you.
This is a whole nother rabbit hole. Did using those things, drugs, alcohol, does that affect your intuition?
100%. 100%. Like I say, I'm cloudy. Like I'm foggy. I make poorer decisions. I don't trust my gut as much, or I have bigger emotional reactions. Not like they're outbursts, but I have bigger emotional reactions inside of myself to things that I probably shouldn't be reacting to. Yeah, I was just thinking, as an example, like last night, I just had 3 drinks, staff party, came home, and I felt sad when I got home. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not sad. Like, I'm not actually sad, but I felt sad about something that I wouldn't normally feel sad about. And so that was that clarity and that lack of being able to trust my gut and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, I wake up and I'm like, that was ridiculous. Like, why was I having those feels? And so, yeah, for me, being sober, being really clear, putting good things into your body and good people around you and getting out in nature, all of that stuff helps with consciousness and tapping into intuition.
Mm-hmm. I want to leave it at that because I could go so deep onto that, and I'm like, no, get on to the next thing. What is the impact you want to have on the people around you, the community, and the world?
I would like to help people feel safe, help people feel seen, and help people feel joyful. So, yeah, I want people to feel really comfortable and safe within my presence. Be able to share their story with me and feel seen and heard. And that is a ripple effect that then can ripple out. So I can do that with the people around me, and then they can do that with the people around them, and then it's this big spread.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, safe, seen, joy.
So good. And following up on that question of that impact, what came to mind just then is like, what is your favorite part about you? I've never asked this before.
Ooh. I just keep on coming back to the word joy, and I know I've like used that a lot. I've overused it a lot.
We know what the title's going to be.
I think my favorite part of me is my ability, even with everything gone through, not despite of that, but just with everything, with life happening, that I still have this ability to tap into childlike joy and fun and excitement and be able to see the world with childlike eyes and childlike joy, even with all of the other things. So I think that I like about me.
So good. So good. Shall we dance? No.
Party! No,
you know the song. Do. Next podcast.
Yep.
That's the next podcast series is making people dance.
Yeah.
So how can people find you and connect with you and hear about everything that's happening, especially with the documentary series?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yep.
Television series.
Yeah. Your yoga, everything that you do.
Well, I am very bad with social media, so I am like, I will post regularly and share the things, and then I don't post for 3 weeks. So, but I do plan on doing more on there and having a website and everything up and running shortly. But currently, you can just find me at Mariah Gates Yoga on Instagram. And I'm not sure what the website name is going to be yet, so I can't tell you that. But Mariah Gates Yoga on Instagram, and same thing on Facebook.
Amazing. And that'll all be in the show notes as well. And if the website is out by the time this is launched, it'll all be there so you can check out everything that's happening.
Yeah.
I want to wrap this up by saying, well, acknowledging you for being just a beautiful human. In my life, I've only known you briefly, but we've shared some great times together. I think this is like the second time I've met you, but like, the event was great. And this was amazing too, but also being so open, so vulnerable, so real about your story and sharing these things, but also the impact that you want to have on others. You've seen what you can go through and how you can use that to create a magical life, but now you're using that to impact others' lives, and I love that so much. And I think that you're going to do incredible things in 2020, and I can't wait to support that, collaborate, and everything that you're going to do.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. It's been heaps fun.
You're so welcome. Was this your first podcast? You've been on one before.
This is my first podcast being on this side.
Ooh, the interviewee. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I was actually super nervous. I was like, what if I don't have the answers to the questions? I can ask the questions, but what if I don't have the answers to the questions? So this has been a really cool experience.
Awesome. You're so welcome, and thank you for sharing it with me. Okay, interviewer, you've got one question you can ask me. Go.
Ooh, oh God, now I'm on the spot. Normally I prep. One question. Very simple. What is your word? What is the word that you are going to use to describe 2020? Do you have a word?
I've actually been thinking about this because I'm making a wrap-up video of 2019.
I got this from Carly again. I keep on referencing Carly, but I got this from Carly. So.
Shout out to Carly. One word to describe 2020.
It's hard.
Conscious? No. Yeah, I'd like to say, I think this year has been my transformational year. I think 2020 for me, you've got me here.
You know what? It's okay. We don't have to rush it.
I think 2020 is like Thrive, which is really stepping into everything that I want to do. I've been pre-planning and setting up structure and doing the inner work and doing all this to get to a certain point, and then next year's my breakout year, and I didn't wait till 2020 for it to happen. It's happened in the past month.
Absolutely.
But as we're listening to this in 2020, it's Thrive. It's everything's going to happen. Everything has been, I was going to say roasting. Everything's been marinating and planning everything to get to this point of really setting up my life to do the things I love. And this year was a lot of transformations and sacrifices and shifts within myself and within my work to get there, and 2020 is looking incredible. So Thrive.
I love it.
Yeah. How about you?
Good. I don't know mine yet. I know my 2019 was believe, so talking about believing in yourself, believing in the process, all of that. So 2019 was believe, and I feel like it's going to be something along those, it's going to be abundance or something. Yeah. So all of those things that I believed in are just going to be abundant in my life. So I think abundance, but it might change.
Put me on the spot, then you don't have an answer.
I know. God, that's also what you don't do. You don't ask a question you don't have the answer to yourself. But well.
That's why I'm on this side. So if you have enjoyed this, if you have loved this, reach out to Mariah, reach out to myself. We love feedback. We want to hear if something has resonated, triggered you, or inspired you. If there's anything you could resonate with in this, or that someone would get benefit out of this, share it with them. Again, you can find this on any podcast app. So whichever app you're on, I'd love it and appreciate it if you could rate and leave a review. That would always be amazing. Merry Christmas to the Conscious Podcast. And it's after Christmas when this comes out anyway, so hope you had a great Christmas. Happy New Year. And on YouTube as well, come and subscribe. Do you have YouTube?
That is also in the works.
In the works. So you've got until this comes out to make this channel and have it linked below.
And
So-
I guess the other thing, so we do have the Instagram, the Holistic Approach AU. So that's up and running, as well as the Facebook page. So if you're wanting to follow along with wellness in Adelaide, follow along on there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can't wait to speak to you next time. And until then, peace.
Peace.